Hey everyone, how you doing? Back at you again with another movie review. This time I will be talking about the latest horror film from A24, which is Bring Her Back, directed by Danny and Michael Philippou, starring Billy Barrett, Sora Wong, and Sally Hawkins. And this follows a couple of foster kids who are brother and sister. There's Andy and there's Piper, who is visually impaired, and after the tragic death of their father, they go to live with Sally Hawkins' character at her place as her foster kids, and let's just say some unsettling things start to ensue on the property, and maybe she isn't quite what she seems on the surface. Now, when it comes to the Philippou brothers, I was early on the RackaRacka train back in the day, watching these crazy videos that they did. They were so shocking, they were so bold. It's one of those channels that's very, very hard to forget. And, once I saw that they were, making the shift into feature filmmaking, of course I went and saw Talk to Me, which I don't think I reviewed on this channel, but I thought it was good. I think it has one of the scariest scenes in any movie I've ever seen. Just one of the most grotesque and shocking that I literally did not know that you could go there. Well, I knew you could go there, but I don't think most directors would choose to go to the insane and deprived places that these two brothers went to. But I ultimately felt that that narrative was a bit unfulfilling, and I wished that they could have delivered it in a way that definitely felt more conclusive and also, true to the characters that they were presenting. And, without a slew of stupid decisions that I really think brought the narrative down as effective as the filmmaking was. But that was the thing. Clearly from that debut feature, I could tell that these guys really had a vision that a lot of other horror filmmakers have. It was definitely a step above a lot of the horror fare we see throughout the year that just gets, plopped out in the theaters, and then we don't think about it again. And so I was obviously very excited to see what their next movie would be. And then I started hearing the reviews, and people who didn't Talk to Me were loving this. And so that really was a good sign. And also Sally Hawkins coming on board, a very, very talented, great, Academy Award nominated actress for her performances in Blue Jasmine, and of course the Academy Award winning Best Picture film, The Shape of Water. And my goodness, as soon as you get into this film, it really opens in such an eerie way that immediately hooks you into the story. And I think they set up the characters so well in this, which is something I really, really appreciated. And I suppose they do the same in Talk to Me, but in a way where I think that narrative undercuts a lot of what they were originally setting up. I think that this movie deals with it a lot better into tying it into a more cohesive and thematic story that I think really, really delivers on so many levels. Not just from the horror, which we'll get into because, this is one of the craziest horror movies I have seen in quite some time. And so I definitely think that this is a much better structured, better written, more layered, complex, and, just very, very engaging film that I think works much better from an execution standpoint. And their direction here is absolutely exceptional. I really think that these guys are coming into the role of auteurs in the horror genre, and I just think that whenever they are going to make a movie, I'm going to be there to see it no matter what. Unless I hear it's insanely bad, but I really don't know if these guys are capable of creating, slop to that level, because I just think their hand behind the camera and attention to detail is so greatly felt in this film. And of course, like all the best horror films, the way the trauma that all these characters have gone through and how it's interwoven into their story and their characters, it is just so rich in a way that I don't even think that Talk to Me can even reach the heights of this. And I just think the cast here is absolutely exceptional. Billy Barrett, I mean, this kid can really, really act, and it's really his story, I think, for the most part. He's essentially what I would call our protagonist, because the way they focus on these different characters is quite interesting, because you can make an argument even for Sally Hawkins' character in this, but he really has a lot of weight to carry on his shoulder, and I absolutely love how subtly they build his character. It is just great writing from top to bottom, and there's some things that I'm not 100% sure about with it, but my goodness, I think overall this character is so strong of Andy in this movie, and I just think he really anchors the movie in a way that if he didn't get you to care, then I don't know if this story would have worked, because you understand everything that he is going through, especially at his age in the story. It is such a great performance, and I really, really loved him in this movie. And then, of course, you got Sora Wong, who's also really, really great, and who actually is visually impaired herself. And I really love the dynamic that she has with Billy Barrett as Andy in this, because you really get a sense that these two have a very deep love for one another, and, you know, just the protection that he wants to make sure that he provides for her is very, very much felt throughout this whole story, and I think their dynamic is certainly one of the strongest parts about this movie. And then there's Sally Hawkins, who, my goodness, I don't think I have ever seen her in this light. And some people have mentioned this about her performance in this, but of course, you know, she's usually very charming, very sweet. In this movie, she weaponizes it in a way that we have never seen before, and she is absolutely ballistic, unhinged, and oh my goodness. But yet again, it's not just she's crazy for the sake of being crazy. There's a legitimate reason as to why she is the way she is, and as horrifying as she can be, I ultimately think that her character is quite a tragic one. And I think that this is one of her absolute best performances, one of the absolute best performances of the year. I definitely think that this should get some awards contention somewhere. I doubt that it will, you know, a summer movie, horror film in June, but my goodness, she absolutely deserves all the raves that she's been getting for this performance. There's so many times when I'm just like, oh, fuck this bitch. Just, it is insane the levels that she goes to manipulate these kids, and that's all I'll really say, because I don't want to give much away to the plot, obviously. And then I have to mention Jonah Wrench-Phillips, who's the other kid who lives at the home with them, has a very unsettling presence. He's kind of mute, doesn't really say much, just stares blankly, and he is required to do a lot in this movie. And if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But I really do think that he turns in one of the best child performances I've seen in quite some time. Seriously, like, I really hope that he continues to work steadily after this, because I don't know if most children would be able to pull off what he does in this movie and what is required of him. And let's get into the horror of it all. This might be one of the most squeamish experiences I've ever had watching a film, like, where I was audibly gasping out loud in the theater just at some of the scares. Like, I hardly ever do that, so that's how I know a horror movie's working. In the crowd, it was a small theater, but it was pretty packed, and everybody was really, really feeling the communal experience of just absolute disgust at what was being presented on screen, but in a way that will catch you off guard at the most important moments that feels essential to the narrative at hand. And I think that's what works about this movie so well, as opposed to Talk to Me. I just think that there's so much cohesion with how the film is set up and how these pieces come together, that it really doesn't feel like it is just shock value for the sake of it, which was part of the problem I had with a couple of scenes in Talk to Me in particular. But I think here you will see things that I don't think you have seen too often in horror movies, because they really go there. They do not give a shit. And they really will show some of the most gruesome images that you will see on screen. So if that's something that will perturb you. I definitely wouldn't recommend this movie, but I do think if you are a big fan of horror and appreciate, the balls to the wall approach as to what can be shown on screen, I think you will appreciate what's going on, even if it will make you feel a bit uneasy, to say the least here. But I think one of my only criticisms with this film, I think that there's a couple moments where you really have to suspend your disbelief, but it is one of those things where they do give it an explanation, and had they not, it probably would have bothered me a lot more. But it is one of those things where you really do have to, ask a few questions like, how would this happen in the first place? But I do think regardless, it is so effective in every other front. I mean, this is going to be hard to top when it comes to horror for the rest of this year. I think this is going to be not just one of the absolute best horror movies of the year, but I think one of the absolute best movies of the year in general. I think the filmmaking is excellent. The script, it gets better the more I think about it, especially little subtle things that are set up throughout the story. They pay off in a big emotional way, and that's the thing. There's an emotional arc to this film that I think is very much lacking from Talk to Me, and I think it satisfies and coalesces in a way in a very, very unforgettable and honestly heartbreaking final shot. That's all I'll say. That really hasn't left my mind at all, and adds so much thematic weight to what is already present in this very grief-stricken and trauma-ridden story. I think all these themes are explored expertly. I really can't wait to see this again in theaters if I get the chance to. I really want to give this my highest recommendation for all those with the stomach to consume it. I don't know if that's the right word, but I really do think you all should go see Bring Her Back. I think it's one of the best horror films that A24 has done, and I think it's one of the top tier A24 films in general. So I'm going to give Bring Her Back a 9 out of 10. This is one of the absolute best movies of the year. I really do think that 2025 is starting to turn around for the better. With the summer movie season here, it has just been off to the races since, and I think that this one really kicked it up just another notch. But yeah, guys, you let me know what you think about the Philippou brothers sophomore feature. Is this the definition of the sophomore triumph as opposed to the sophomore slump, or did you have some issues with this? Did you enjoy Talk to Me more? Let me know down in the comments below, and please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more movie reviews like this. Definitely going to be talking about Wes Anderson's The Phoenician Scheme very, very soon, as well as, trying to plan out some other things that I hope to get to and get out for you guys in the near future as well. So you take it easy till then, and I'll talk to you later.